Okay, so let's just take a minute and see what we are given here and what we need to find. All right, so we're given that MP is parallel to VR. I have that marked. And we're trying to prove that NW over WS equals OW over WT. So you want to think in your head ahead of time what that kind of means. And that basically means that if I have two sides that are proportional, then I probably have two similar triangles here and here. So my goal is to prove that these two triangles are similar before I move on, before I can prove this. All right, so I'm going to think about how I'm going to do that first. So I know I'm going to prove similar triangles. My three methods for proving triangles are similar are AA, side, 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 and side, angle, side. I know I can't use these two because I don't have any side marks congruent, so I'm going to use angle, angle. So let's check and see what kind of angles I can mark as congruent. All right, so number one, I know I have these two parallel lines, and I am a big highlighter, cut by this transversal right here. So when you have it cut by that transversal, you got some alternate interior angles that hopefully you see pretty quickly. So I have this as an alternate interior angle to here. And then the other angle that I have is I have this vertical angle right here. All right, so I have two angles. So if I can prove them similar by angle, angle, then I can move on and say that the corresponding sides are proportional. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is always start out by your given statement. Okay, so this is what we're given. And then from there, I would always suggest like thinking, okay, what did you mark from the given statement? Well, you marked that these lines were parallel, and since the lines were parallel, you found these alternate interior angles being congruent. All right, so that's like saying you have angle ONW congruent, okay, so we have ONW congruent to TSW. And the reason for that, remember that is if you have parallel lines, okay, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, so that's one of my angles. So what's the other angle that we chose? I kind of marked those off to sort of show what I've done in my proof. And I proved these vertical angles right here. So let's just name those vertical angles. So angle NWO is congruent. So NWO is congruent to SWT. Okay, and that is vertical angles are congruent. Okay, so now I can prove that the triangles are similar. So let's just make sure our similar statements are okay. So if we start with the first one. Okay, so then we know that triangle, and I'm going to go in order NWO. Okay, so I went NWO, just be careful. N was that double marking, W was the vertical, O was the non. So you have to go in the same order over here. S is the double marking, W is the vertical, T is the non. That is congruent to triangle SWT, and that is by angle, angle. And then now, since we have our two similar triangles, you can even use this. You can say NW over WS. Notice they're in the same position. Okay, and then that is going to be equal to, same thing. Take a look, OW over WT. So let's just take a look. OW, WT, and we're good to go. So if we're going to say the reason there is corresponding sides of similar triangles are proportional. So let me just check this. We had NWO, SWT. All right, so that one looks good. So let's take a look at the next one. All right, so we are given that US over WY is equal to, sorry, I'm going to get some different colors, is equal to UX over WT, which is equal to SX over YT. Okay, so basically what we're saying here is we're saying this over this is the same as this over this is the same as this over this. So what's that tell us? That tells us that those two triangles are similar, all right? And since the two triangles are similar, Then I know the corresponding angles are congruent. So that is telling us that, let's take a look at what we're trying to prove here. We're trying to prove that U is congruent to V, which is congruent to W. All right, so we can probably pretty easily prove that these two are congruent. Okay, and that's by those two we're going to prove congruent by corresponding angles of similar triangles are congruent, but somehow we got to get that V in there. So that's going to be the hard part here, is getting that V. So let's just take a minute and think about how that's going to work. So how that's actually going to work is we're going to say, after we get them congruent, we can say that this angle is equal to this angle, and this angle is equal to this angle. Now we're going to have vertical angles right here, so we're going to prove those congruent. Vertical angles, those congruent. If this angle is equal to this angle, okay, these two angles are equal, then we're going to end up proving that this angle is going to be the same as these two. So if these two are the same as these two and these two, then the third ones have to be congruent. So that's how you're going to prove that. So take a minute and try that in your notes, and then let me know how you do. And if you have questions on how to write that out, let me know. I'm happy to help.